Well, great. Welcome, everyone. This is the last session for the day for me, but I've had a great experience so far. I get the privilege, distinct, of introducing Ari Kalfane. I don't think I got it right, but close. Yeah, he's going to be speaking about winning your first 50 enterprise customers, practical strategies for launching a machine learning startup. He spends a lot of his time over at AWS, helping AI and ML startups as a senior business development manager. Began his career with AI and ML back in 2009, where he led sales at Figure Eight, which is sold for about 300 million to Appian. They pioneered data labeling technology, and he's also joined the founding team of Weight and Biases in 2018, pioneering machine learning tools for deep learning. Very servitude background, focuses on helping early stage co-founders building machine learning, accelerating growth, and achieving product market fit. Love the fact that a lot of our talkers today are talking about how to really bring this to the market. So I'm sure Ari, working at a behemoth like Amazon, who I've used about 17 times today, will talk all about market fit. Specializes in helping early startups accelerate their growth by helping them connect with the internal resources over at AWS that they need. And then, of course, as I mentioned, that go-to-market strategy, introducing the enterprise accounts and connecting startups with investors. So really excited about hearing what he has to say today and how to kind of bring those practical strategies to scale your machine learning startup, which we know a lot of people on this call have. Many of our attendees have these machine learning startups, and how to get to that next level is one of the questions we get often asked. So here's your answer. Ari, over to you, sir. Looking forward to what we're going to learn from you today.
Awesome. Thanks, Stuart. Really appreciate it. Hi, folks. Honored to be here. Thank you for having me. I know when we spoke to Dave about sponsoring the event and getting to put some really interesting content on for startups, we were just stoked to be able to help and participate. So let me just turn on my turn on the slide share. It will maybe be wonky for a second, but now that this no longer see the chat window, so Stuart will be collecting questions from y'all, and we'll leave some time at the end so I can answer questions directly. We're also going to be posting my LinkedIn profile and my email. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And yes, we will be sharing this presentation as well as the video for this specific chat at the end. So let's get started. We're going to be talking about winning your first 50 enterprise customers. Going from 0 to 1's hard, 1 to 10's hard, 10 to 50 is really hard. And what I really want to do is leave you with practical strategies to launching a machine learning startup. So we've broken this up into a couple of different parts: an introduction, and then going from 0 to 1, 1 to 10, and 10 to 50, and how to think about each of these distinct parts of start, grow, and scale. And then talking about leveraging AWS to help with your go-to-market, and leaving you with very practical tools and tips. So this isn't just like, I wanted to share this as like a vulnerable expression of wanting to help other startups avoid the common pitfalls and mistakes I've made, but also help you succeed and thrive by sharing the things that have worked before so that it inspires you and moves you to the next level. So Stuart already gave a great introduction. I think the main thing to say here is, like, as a fellow human, I work on a variety of different things. It's not just ML startups. I've been a part of 10 different startups at this point, founded my own. I've been head of sales. And like my cup of tea is just like B2B large contracts. Like I love launching companies and like landing Toyota, eBay, OpenAI, Microsoft, GitHub, AWS, any of these types of large companies, and like making a big splash. And then in my like spare time, I like to surf big waves and produce festivals. That's a little art piece I've produced before on the bottom right. So what I want you to get out of this presentation, it's really like inspired action. So when you leave this, I'm going to leave you with like specific email templates, a vision for how to create like tactical videos, tactical blog posts, integrate that into your email communication, places to go to find customers. And that's really big, especially in the age of COVID, when startup founders keep saying, I don't know where to find my customers right now. So we'll address that. And also really like how to think about the space when you're launching a company. So we'll jump into all that, but I want you to understand this is a practical presentation. So just bear with me as I introduce the space and how I think about it. And then we'll get into the practical lessons as well. And really, I also want to leave with how AWS and I can help you move forward at the end. So we'll start with the ABCs of the ML startup journey on AWS. 1, we start with Activate, B is Build, and C is Connect. With Activate, this is our way of like actually giving you credit so you're not spending your well-earned VC dollars on your cloud provider in the beginning. Along with that, you get a dedicated team, you get technical resources, free workshops, one-on-one mentorship. And as you build a product, we actually help you with technical support, access to beta products and roadmap, speaking engagement, co-marketing. Anyone who joined the talk yesterday saw 4 incredible founders talking about their journey and sharing their ML journey and how they partner with AWS. So that's an example of a talk that we put together. And then when like all startup founders need the same thing, expertise, hiring folks, interest to VCs, and interest to customers. And I can help you with all that. And really why like I'm here and why my team's here is we're a bunch of ex-founders, VCs, operators that really love helping startups grow. And like, frankly, we help them from the early days. Like Travis used to be a mentor of mine and actually funder for Figure 8 in the beginning. So watching these companies and helping companies develop from the very beginning is like where I come in. And like, we just want to do it and like watch you succeed. That's what gives us a lot of joy, really. And we built the entire ecosystem to support you. So whether that's like go to market, whether that's marketing, whether that's intro to VCs, technical resources, you name it, we've got it. So a story that really highlights like my journey is like, we had our investors at Figure 8 popping Dom Perignon after we closed our first $1 million deal. They brought 2 bottles, they got the whole team together. They really made us feel great. Fast forward 6 months, every head of the business was replaced by a more senior leader. And really where we failed was not building a scalable and repeatable process. So what we want to do is like build something that is like a rocket ship, but not everything goes straight up. What you actually do is build in different verticals. You answer a specific question, and then you plateau. You answer another question, you plateau. And I'll get into that in a second, along with those questions. But it's worth saying that like ML is still the wild, wild west. Things are moving so quickly. Like as an example, PyTorch wasn't even a thing 4 years ago, and now over 50% of deep learning in production happens on PyTorch and growing quickly every day. So what I want to say here is, as a founder, people buy vision. They don't necessarily just buy features. They buy your vision. So share your vision and avoid selling specific features, because yes, you have to build a functional product that people want to use now. But when a big company and an enterprise is making a bet on an early stage startup, they're betting on you and your team that you can build something that will scale along with the industry and the use cases. And that's all changing really quickly. And like my 3 core tenets for building a successful machine learning company: 1, listen to your customers, ask deep dive questions and dive deeper, because like your customers will tell you everything you need to know. As an example of this one is like, hey, what did you get out of our product is a great question. And like one company that's in the agricultural ML space, they actually told us, well, we found out that there was a bug in our ML pipeline that was slowing down our ML training by 5x. We were able to speed up our training by 5x by just figuring that out using our platform. And that we realized that we can like unblock entire teams by making like machine learning accessible by just asking that simple question. And then I said, you should have a vision, but I also want you to empower your team to have their own vision. So they're the master of their own destinies, and they're contributing as active partners. So it's great to have a vision as a founder, but it's amazing to build a team where everyone's living their vision. And last, startups are an ultra marathon, not a sprint. Most folks have heard of like Arianna Huffington falling down out of exhaustion, hitting your head on the desk, and like just going too far, too quickly. It's not a sprint, it's an ultra marathon. So make sure to take self-care and take care of yourself while you do it. So we talked about this. Startups develop in stages, and each of those stages have a very specific question, an inflection point where you need to answer that question with 100% certainty. Like, will someone pay for my product? Yes or no? So like a lot of startup founders just give away their product. They gain a little bit of traction. They're like, will anyone buy it? And one person may buy it, two people may buy it, but like really you need to create a scalable model where a lot of people will buy it. Non-co-founders can sell it. You have a process that will scale along with a product that will scale with your customer needs without excessive churn, and in the end with profitability. And each of those questions are critical. So I'll leave you with a couple resources. In this case, forentrepreneurs.com is a great one that really dives a little bit deeper into these inflection points. But like, no, everyone thinks of like a startup as a rocket ship. Like Uber went and created a unicorn from day one. Actually, they were like only on iPhones and they only had black cars. They were just solving the taxi problems. They said taxis suck. They figured out someone would pay for it. Then they had to build the scalable platform and yada, 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 right? So you answer a question, then you plateau. So we'll get into some of those and start, grow, scale now. So let's start with start, going from 0 to 1 customer, which is one of my favorite stages. So in this stage, you're validating that someone will purchase your product. As the founders, you're selling, you're doing the marketing, you're going to probably have a simple website. I like to launch it with just like a simple website and a little one-pager, and maybe like a deck for bonus materials since you have to have an investor deck anyways. And I like to say, like, I generate almost all of my introductions from warm introductions at this point, and I'll get into why a little bit later in the presentation, but at the high level is your conversion rates are really, really high. I mean, at one point in the beginning of my last company, Weights and Biases, we had 100% conversion rate with the first 20 warm introductions, right? You can't get that with cold outreach. And one thing to note, your first users help you work out the kinks with your product. I remember we sat down, we tried to instrument our product, and it just didn't work, right? So you're getting your first users on board to work out the kinks, figure out what's actually going to like what they love about your product, and then communicate it to more people. And take those insights and integrate into your marketing materials. So a lot of the early ML startup founders actually like get stuck on like, should I build an on-prem offering? Is it going to be open source? Is it going to be SaaS? Right? And we know ML companies don't operate like traditional SaaS businesses, and I'll get into that in, I believe, the next slide. But what I found is like having a SaaS offering and a private cloud offering kind of covers both your bases and it covers enough customers where you can get off the ground. And then like later on develop maybe an on-prem offering, but the market's headed towards private cloud. So that seems to work in the majority of use cases. And if you have questions about like compliance, security, especially for like sensitive industries like insurance, fintech, or healthcare, we have a team of solutions architects that actually like do this day in and day out and can help you with those types of questions. Because we work with those folks as well, and that's like something we can easily help you with. So at this stage, you have to ask, who is your customer? And you have to understand, like, what is the sales opportunity? Why are people buying? So I remember sitting with the head of AI for the Toyota Research Institute, and I just asked him point blank, why are you buying a solution from us? And he said, look, anything that helps us build an autonomous vehicle quicker where we don't have to build the software helps us, because I believe the people that win this market, there may be 1 or 2 winners, and it's the first to bring the technology to market. So speed is what we're going for. So that's why he was buying. And like, as part of that, you need to understand all the key decision makers: HR, legal, executive buy-in, infrastructure, DevOps, AI, the actual users. And you want to bring all those stakeholders together. That can speed up your actual sales process by 6 months or a year if you actually do that from day one. And you do need to identify like your internal influencers to get to all those folks. So the best practice here, start with your early adopters. Not everyone wants to be an early adopter. And like, I like to start with flagship brands to be your early like lighthouse customers, because people really do follow lighthouse brands. And then I like to ask, what is your customer's primary pain point? Where do they feel the pain today? What does it cost them? What's the opportunity if you stop the pain? Sometimes these like pain points aren't going to be super obvious. Like that example that I gave you where they're like, well, I didn't know that my pipeline, ML pipeline was broken and slowed down by 5x because I didn't have the capability to see everyone's training in one place. So by like uncovering pain points and like listening to your customers and asking a lot of questions, you're going to be able to like figure out those pain points and then prioritize your roadmap through sales discovery. And that looks like quarterly check-in meetings and asking like, hey, what really works? What doesn't work? Presenting your next quarter in terms of development and future development and asking for what they need over the next quarter and the next year. So you make sure to stay aligned with your company, your customers. And then especially in the age of COVID, you really want to think creatively to reach early customers. I know most of us would be at this conference live and connecting with each other, but that's not the world we live in today. So I like to talk about like actually meeting Fortune 500 companies by creating a simple event on Eventbrite. I mean, I closed $500,000 of business from my last company just by running an event on Eventbrite. And you can do that on Splash or Meetup. You can host a podcast and invite the people you want to sell to. And for educational events, which like, again, machine learning is moving so quickly. And if you want to be a flagship brand, you want to educate the enterprise and have them come along with you as ML develops. So go beyond conferences. I frankly love to meet people in the real world doing real world things. So just a little inspiration there. And then at the 0 to 1 stage, everyone runs into this problem. How do I price my product? Well, I'm going to tell you a little secret. We're all making it up as we go. Yes, we look at comps. Yes, we actually like check in with what are our competitors doing. We want to like copy simple pricing models, and we want to create something that expands over time. But like if you come up with something that no one understands and is not the norm for your industry, it's going to be really difficult to like actually sell your product. So I'll give you an example. When I started my last company, we were trying to sell in the beginning with like a per GPU hour basis, kind of like how AWS charges per GPU hour. But people kept getting confused. They're like, wait, am I buying a GPU? Are you running my training? I'm not used to this. And they were used to like a per seat license cost model. So we had to switch at that point. Like we couldn't communicate our pricing model. We switched it. And as soon as we did, it really unlocked the market. So I always say, develop a simple pricing model, turn to folks that have done it before, and just realize we're all making it up. And it took us years to really nail down the pricing model for my last 2 ML companies. So just, it's an iterative process, and talk to other folks and keep iterating. So Andreessen Horowitz came out with this really awesome article on new ML companies are not like SaaS models, and they require high variable costs. So really what I want to say here is like we ran into this 12 years ago at Figure 8. We had a whole services team that was operationalizing data labeling, and we didn't have this kind of backup. We didn't know there were high variable costs involved with machine learning back then, but now we knew. So just build it in your model and expect some of that as you get your company off the ground. So you've gone from 0 to 1. You've closed a customer. Maybe it's a small startup. Maybe it's Toyota, right? And you're going to try to leverage that to go from 1 to 10 customers. So you're going to like continue to drive warm introductions, but you also want to start to like drive marketing leads at this stage outside of your network. So you want to set up an inbound marketing system where you're doing email marketing. And I'm going to get into like the specifics of that on the next couple of slides. And this is where you start testing price points and pricing models. Like in the start stage, I'm always a little agnostic to price, right? Like I just throw something against the wall, see if it sticks. But like with repetition, as you talk to 5 customers, as you talk to 10 customers, as you talk to 100 customers, you start to narrow in on what the market actually expects and what the market is willing to pay. And at this point, you're talking to enough customers that I like to set up like a CRM. In the beginning, at the start stage, I just track everything on a spreadsheet. But as I like start to scale things, I do like to go with the CRM. Frankly, I tried going with like a cheap, easy startup CRM, but in the end, we needed a great reporting dashboard. So we did just go with Salesforce at the end. So like save that medium, like middle step by just going straight to something where you can create your dashboards and your sales tracking right from the beginning. And you're going to be refining your customer messaging to highlight customers' biggest pain points, right? So as you talk to customers, as they tell you your product speeds up development for 5x, it helps them actually create a collaborative team environment for machine learning. I'm just not making these up, but I'm sharing actual feedback that customers have gave to us that we would have had no idea actually existed. We integrate that into our marketing materials and our sales materials. And I talked about the quarterly business reviews. It's just like so critical to keep in touch with your customers. Even as you hire your first salesperson or your sales team, I like to involve like the founders and the CTO in all the quarterly business reviews so they can hear from the customers what's going well, what can use improvement, and where the roadmap needs to go to. And as you hear your customers are happy, that naturally leads into references and building really powerful content with your customers. And as you see some of these like email models, they really require, they're like classic email templates, but they require like really strong technical ML content to work. So when you're actually like scaling, we talked about like landing a flagship brand. The reason for that is social proof. Because if you land in the, like my last company's case, Toyota, then we can go knocking it to all the different car companies and say, you know, and we've created marketing materials with our first customer, then we can take that to the rest of the market in the industry or use case that you're trying to target with your market customers. So I just like creating a list of 100 folks within each use case or vertical, taking those flagship brands that are social proof, creating strong customer testimonials, podcasts, blog, case studies, white papers, but even better, video content showcasing your product in action with real world examples from your customers. And it works really, really well. So when you actually create this type of content and you integrate it into your cold outreach campaigns, it can do a lot of good. So we talked about the list of 100 different enterprise customers for each use case and vertical. You mine warm introductions for the folks that you can actually gain access to. Then you focus on demand generation, right? So that's where you want to like take the warm introductions out and then set up cold outreach. And then you want to add like emails, cold outreach emails, but you also want to use different channels to reach your customers. So blogs, emails, podcasts, as well as email marketing. So you can actually like reach them and have them recognize your name from different places to create the social proof so they know your name, they know your use case, and generally they revert back to those emails you sent them. And they're like, oh, now I'm looking at this problem and I'd love a demo. And one like little warning / tip, don't burn leads. So focus on the companies you can win with your current product, not the future product that you can sell. So when I say sell a vision, make sure you're clearly articulating where your product is and where it's going. And if someone's trying to buy for where it's going, just put them on, notate that on the CRM and go back to them at a later date. So you have a list of 100 folks or a specific vertical or use case that you want to hit. And then I like to create a search term on LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So it may be CIO, it may be data scientist, it may be VP of machine learning. Pick the titles, the specific titles of the folks that you're trying to target. Then run the search, use tools. I like using Seamless AI. There are a couple of these tools that you can choose from. I just like to simply put the one that I use to find their contact information, import those contacts, and set up email campaigns on outreach.io. So when you're setting up these email campaigns, I like to set up 5 to 8 emails to drive traffic, spaced out 3 to 8 days apart. And then I like to track those metrics meticulously and continually test, whether it's like changing the call to action. It could be a request for a demo. It could be a request for a one-on-one meeting with the founder. It could be try my product for free. You can try different call to actions, test the metrics, keep iterating. But use the content from your blog, use your videos, use your website to direct traffic and educate your customer with these campaigns. So why I say I want you to use warm introductions first is because when you look at these numbers, you'll notice, one, you get actually a surprisingly high open rate. You get a pretty high reply rate, but within the each campaign, it's email 2, 3, 4, 7, and 1 that have the highest open rates and highest reply rates. So it's not always your first email. It's like a variety of emails that come through that gets people's attention. And it's funny when I get to the 6th or 7th email, if it was just a personal email, I might feel bad, but sometimes they're apologizing to me. They're like, I'm so sorry, I missed this. I'm really grateful you actually followed up. I would love a demo. This is a problem that I'm looking at right now. So don't worry about the folks that are unsubscribing or saying not interested. I'm sure you're solving for a real business use case and a real business need that you're communicating to your potential future customers. And a pro tip, I love using Intercom to reply to customers in real time and send out valuable surveys to actually talk to my customers in near real time. So here's an example of a very the actual enterprise email that I like to use, and I just inserted areas where you can insert the video, your target user, company description. So you can just copy and paste this and build your own. But where this gets really focused on machine learning is your example. So a 2-minute, in the case of my last company, we had a 2-minute video with OpenAI showing how they were using they were solving for a robotic grasping hand using transfer learning and storing everything and tracking all of their experiments on our website and our product. So that was really powerful. So it's not just a classic enterprise email. Make it really ML and technical, but give them different parts of the funnel. Tell them you're investors. Tell them the top ways you can help solve their company's problem. Insert the other customers that you have. Really talk about why you started this company in short form. And then for email 2, 3, 4, 5, I've included more examples in the appendix and actual blogs from Outreach.io where you can actually dive into best practices. But as you can see, you can be a little quippy. Hey, sorry for sabotaging your inbox 0. You can say anything you want. The main goal here is eliciting a response and eliciting a positive reaction to your call CTA. Cool. So I'm moving really fast. This is usually an hour, so I'm trying to get through an hour's worth of material in a very short amount of time. So we're going to just keep going so we have a little bit of time for question and answer in the end. So you've closed 10 customers. You've mined your warm introductions. You've set up cold marketing campaigns. You're hitting up your customers at conferences, on podcasts, a variety of different places, virtual event, education events. Now you need to scale. So at this point, you might go from 5 demos a week to 50 demos a week. And that's exhausting as a founder, right? At this point, you'll likely have your first sales hire. And if you don't, you're hiring them really, really quickly. But you might be bringing in customer success managers. You want to be thinking about bringing in sales engineers because each of these integrations, each customization, all the product issues folks run into that you have to troubleshoot, a sales engineer will be great. And they can do the technical demos for you. And the customer success person, as you build new products and grow your product, well, they're going to be focused on long-term customer value, making sure to avoid churn, selling in new product sets, thinking about renewals. So you're going to really be building out your sales and marketing team at this point. And also, you're going to accelerate lead generation. And you're really going to focus on the channels that are working and then test out new channels. So you might be focused on LinkedIn, retargeting, update announcement, customer reviews, spotlight ads, more conferences, keynotes, SEO, social and product announcements, BD, right? So there are a lot of different directions you can go, but you really pour fuel on the fire. In the case of my last company, it was outbound email marketing that we could really scale. We built a scalable system, and I shared most of the products here that we used to do it so that you can leverage them. So a lot about going from 10 to 50 customers is just about reducing friction. So one thing that we saw is that like we had all these like $100 to like $5,000 contracts, small startup teams with 2-3 users. We had researchers using our product. We had teams at big companies, but they might have been like 2 to 3 people. So we needed to create an automated payment system tax for these like lower tier users that are great to have on the platform, but we didn't want sales to be like using the majority of time there because we were selling 6-figure deals as well. So we really needed to like accelerate growth and revenue. And we did that by automating payments. Now, I think one question you'll run into from the beginning, but also as you scale is like, do I give this away for free? Or do I want to actually have paid proof of concepts? So in the case, in my case, I've done both, but like whatever is the quickest, right? And if you're doing, like, I like to talk about free proof of concepts in this way. If 100 people are converting from a free POC to a paid account, that is a great way to earn a customer's trust and have them pay. But if you don't have a high conversion rate and you're having trouble converting them and you see that paid POCs convert better, that's the way you should go. One thing that I've seen work really well with free POCs is actually like creating a contract, giving them a set amount of time and a set amount of users, and then at the end, highlight how much the next contract will cost and actually sign an agreement where you're like going through legal and procurement and you're like nailing down the details and really starts to like accelerate your legal and procurement process. And you're going to be landing and expanding. So while they may, like the enterprise likes to start with like, if it's a user-based model, 20 users or 30 users, and then expand to hundreds of users because they want to test it. And so like, just know that that's the case. It's hard to go from 0 to everyone, but like focus on land and expand because just as soon as you open that door, as soon as you've gone through legal and procurement and you're in partnership with these companies, you can learn what their real pain points are and really help them solve for those pain points. And at this stage, don't let leads fester. Get a quick no, that's invaluable. Just like they're not doing it, they're not moving, take it away. Hey, it doesn't seem like you really want this. Is this not like, I'm just assuming this is a bad time. Can you confirm? And often they'll be like, no, I really want to buy it. I'm just stuck. Or yeah, it's not the best time. Can you check in 3 months? Feel free to take it away. And one hack at this stage is like use discounts and expiration dates on your contract to drive to a close. So it's shocking that this works. I know it's like very simple, but just putting an expiration date and a discount attached to that expiration date really does work. So we've talked a lot about like how to get from 0 to 50 customers. AWS has a lot of different programs on how we can help. So we talked about like activate, build, and connections. So let's talk about a little bit more about those connections. So we have the Amazon Partner Network and Amazon Marketplace. So Amazon Marketplace is a way where you can actually put your product on our marketplace and like people can buy from our site to reduce the friction of like buying, billing, legal, procurement, right? They already have a contract with us. They already have a billing ID with us, and they can spend down their EDB commitment. So that's a great way to like, at the end of the year, especially now when people are buying products and they have money left in their commitments, they buy products on our marketplace. So that's one really easy way. And then the Amazon Partner Network, if you become an Amazon partner, let's say it's data labeling and you have a very specific labeling workforce that can work with Amazon SageMaker Ground Truth, well, then we can actually recommend folks work with you if you're a part of the Amazon Partner Network. So in essence, you're empowering our sales team and our account managers to learn about these use cases, teach them that your company exists, and actually recommend folks buy products from your company through our APN partnership. And then we want to give away credits. So if you don't have Activate credits or you don't have ML credits for new POCs, feel free to email me. They're generally given away through your VC or accelerator incubator. So we can help you navigate that. And there are credits available for founders as well as funded companies. So I can help you navigate that if you haven't got your credits. Next year, we'll have migration funding. So if you're built on another cloud provider, you have a box under your desk, and you want to consolidate everything on AWS, in January, we'll likely have migration funding open again. So we can help you do that and actually like pay partners to help with that transition and give you some credits on top of partner funding to make that process easier. And then I'm happy to help you like go through like your investor deck, make introductions to investors, present co-marketing opportunities, and create some referenceable like materials together, whether it's like a blog post, a podcast, something like we did here at the Toronto Machine Learning Summit with industry events. So happy to help in any way, shape, or form. So feel free to email me and contact me. My email is right here. I know I sped through that. I would have much rather spent an hour, but I'm glad that we got to spend this time.
Thank you so much, Ari. That was fantastic. And we'll certainly have to have you back so we can extrapolate a lot of those points that you made. Some folks had said that just, can everybody hear Ari now? I think, oh yeah, I'm reading up at the top, sorry. Ari, I had a couple questions that I wanted to ask, and there's some questions here from the audience that I wanted to field your way. So somebody asked, with their startup or with their company, somebody's purchasing, can you explain to us when we could identify that we have product market fit? I'm aware, I believe that, you know, often some initial sales can perhaps lead you down the wrong path, maybe make you think that you're on the path to product market fit, but how do you actually know when you do and you have achieved that?
That's a great question, David. You can break that up into different parts. And thank you, Blair. Also, like, yeah, the pace was very brisk for this, so I'm sure you guys have questions, but I wanted to make sure to get through the whole presentation so you see the full picture. To answer your question, it breaks up into a couple different parts. So like at Figure 8, the mistake we made is like we were actually like, our pricing model was wrong. And like we didn't build a platform. It wasn't a self-service platform. It wasn't a SaaS-based platform. We were having people pay per label. And we didn't understand at the time, but it was like everything was headed to this SaaS-based model in the labeling space. And we were just so early. We were one of the first people doing it. We didn't have a vision that that was even possible. It took years to figure that out. So you could make a mistake, right? And how do you identify you've made a mistake in that? A couple of things to look out for. One, is there a pricing model that you can get a lot of different people to pay for this product? That if the answer is yes, I have a lot of people, like at Weights and Biases, we had, by the time I left, under 100, but very close to that number, customers, right? And we had a scalable and repeatable way of getting to those customers, presenting those customers with a demo, testing the proof of concept, selling them in, maintaining them, and making sure that they didn't churn. And those were the core things that I looked for. And then just like anecdotally, when I talk to, like I've left Weights and Biases, right? I'm all in on AWS, but I still love them. So when I have a Weights and Biases customer and I'm talking to them and helping them with AWS, and they say, man, I love that product. Wow, it helps solve X, Y, and Z. Really like helps our team in this way and that way. That's the kind of like mind share that you want in the space, especially as like an early stage startup. And there's a really good book, Cult Marketing. It's the marketing guru at Airbnb wrote it. You really do want to build a cult following. And I don't mean that in like a Manson kind of way. I mean that in the like, I love Airbnb and that's all I use, right? So you want to have people that just like pontificate, refer customers, and like find a ton of value in their product. And that's what I'm really listening for, to know if I answered those questions.
Thank you,
and I can
One thing I've noticed, particularly with technical founders and co-founders, is that there's not really a propensity to operate on the sales side. So for somebody that's maybe a co-founder or a founder of a technical company, maybe you've done some research, or you're an engineer or a software dev, or you're interested in machine learning and data science, messaging, cold calling, doing the outreach, that isn't really your nature. And I've seen that that's actually hurt some companies, and they're not really sure. They might be mistaken and think that maybe their idea or their product isn't good, but they're just simply not getting out in front of enough people. Is there anything that you would recommend, or can you comment or piggyback on that?
Yeah, I mean, I work with technical folks all the time. I mean, like it's like the classic profile of a founder is like PhD in machine learning, PhD in data science, worked at a big company doing machine. And not every, like you have to check in as the founder and or the founding duo, whether you have the skills to run your sales process. And if you don't, you bring in someone like me to actually do it, or you take presentations like this and just copy and paste until you can get to like a couple customers to know that your product can move forward, right? That's why I put this together. So you have like a head of sales without having a head of sales. Like what would I do if I were your head of sales and not working for AWS and loving my job? And then if it's working, you bring in your sales hires and you have them blow it out of the water, right? So I think like one, check in if you can do it. If you really can't do it and you just don't want to be talking to people, give away some founder equity. Find someone that's really good on the business side, but also understands machine learning. Like I think that's critical and can like grow and scale at the pace of ML and cares about it. And then second, like I think marketing is something that like ML founders really, really struggle with, but I think technical founders can struggle with too, right? So find people that are like really competent on the technical side and really competent on community building. Those are the profile of like marketers that I really like for early stage ML startups. I think DT's asking, sending automated cold emails, how does a founder make sure they don't end up in your spam folder? So I think like if it's a really important lead, I would email that person directly through your Gmail or your company alias. You might message them, you might direct message them on Twitter, send them a direct message on LinkedIn, hit them from multiple angles, and just send it one-on-one and like make it a very specific introduction. But to be blunt, I actually found that doesn't work very well at scale. So if it's a really important customer, then do that. Test if more customized content works well for your company, or cold emails that are like broad and specific work. For weights and biases, that template that I shared with you works perfectly, right? And like the follow-up emails may need to change, the content needs to be specific to the use case or vertical, but like it worked like a charm and I didn't need to do that. So, and the last part, ending up in the spam folder, that's where I would read on like the outreach.io blog and like make sure you're following very common practices and email marketing and make sure that you're like GDPR compliant and whatnot. But like really you're like picking the customer because you think they have a use case that you can actually help them with, and you're emailing them a solution, which by essence makes it compliant.
Last question, and we'll let you get on your way. This is a question that I had, and I was curious to get your take on. And it deals with sort of an entrepreneurial, cultural mindset. And you know, I was really interested between Canada and the U.S. So when I was in, I had the opportunity to participate in Y Combinator with a startup years ago. One of the things that I was blown away by was their insistence on pushing to be a unicorn company, like $1 billion company. So even from the onset, let's say you have 2 or even 5 startup founders, the decisions that you're making are based on the projection that you're going to be $1 billion company, not a $50 million company, not a $5 million company, right? How, in your opinion, important is it for a startup to have that scale of growth in mind? Is it, or in other words, is it an impediment if you're, say, doing a startup, you say, you know, 5 million a year in revenue or 10 million or 50 million, I'm okay with that. Does that, in the end, prevent you? Is that an indication of a lack of ambition that's going to, that in your opinion, from a cultural perspective, is going to prevent you from being successful?
That's a great question. And my mentality on that has evolved over time. I remember when Travis Kalanick showed me the first Uber app, and I was like, you know, hit me up when you have it on Android, was the joke that I make, because I literally had an Android phone and I couldn't use it. Who knew that was going to be a unicorn? And I've seen it develop from like 0 to a rocket ship, right? But I also have friends that have built like CRMs for coaches and people that work in wellness, and they make $5 million a year in profit with no investors, and they live in a penthouse in New York. and they're perfectly happy. I think like the way I look at entrepreneurship and I look at this like this space, do something that solves a real problem for people that you have a real passion to solve and that you can build a team around, and check in with yourself. What would make you happy, right? And look, if you're taking on VC funding, they're only going to fund concepts that are going to be billion-dollar. Like they want to see a possibility to be a 100x return, 1,000x return, a 10,000x return, because that's how they make money. That's their entire model. So when you think about like how you fund your company, go back to like why you're starting it and your vision for like where it wants to go. I remember before we went into Weights and Biases, Lucas and I were teaching machine learning to the enterprise, and we ran a perfectly profitable small business. And frankly, we used it to launch Weights and Biases afterwards as our go-to-market strategy, and we had built-in revenue from the beginning. We didn't expect that. We didn't know that when we started that company, but like, you know, everyone has their own path. So it's not for me to tell you to go to YC or go with Mila or take on VC funding. Do what makes you happy, because in the end, that's what we have, one life. We're solving problems that like help the world. I love AI for good, AI for sustainability, and AI that solves real business problems. If you're doing any of those three and you care about it, that's great.
On that note, Ari, thank you so much. That's a good place to end it. I really appreciate you taking the time as well for this session yesterday or yesterday evening that we had, which we will record and send to everybody as well. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you everybody for the great comments. And we'll see you again soon.
Morning. Feel free to shoot me an email if you need any help and want to connect.
Thanks, Ari.
Thanks, Dave.